Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is L.A. Williams, and I am here on the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast with a phenomenal guest, man. I'm super excited about this guy. He is just a gentleman who I actually met recently. Sean did a sales meeting for his team, and he stood out by just miles because he asked a couple of key questions, really made himself known to be a millionaire car salesman. He's on his way. And so without further ado, I want to introduce to you all my main man, Mr. Chris Tara-Browne. What's happening, Chris?
Hey, LA. It's great to be here, man.
All right, cool. So talk to the people about how this whole relationship started. I mean, I know Sean did a sales meeting, but if you can fill in the gaps for us and let us know how this thing got kicked off.
So, Sean Bradley has come on with Bradley On Demand at our dealership. We're doing all the processes. JD, Jeff Danzler, our general manager, and Paul Trudello really pushed this process forward, which was really, driving a team is really the smart thing to do. And they got this wonderful process going on. And they wanted to introduce and kick it off in a good way. And Sean so wonderfully agreed to do our Saturday morning meeting. And it wasn't a regular Saturday morning meeting, I can tell you that right now, LA. And it was pretty intense. And it was, and what I really love about the process we're in right now is it's actually focused on process. It's not like, overarching concepts, which there are, and they're important to, with relationships and so on and so forth. But it was very like getting into the details. And so I just took the top sellers. I happened to be at that moment the top selling salesperson in the dealership. And so he really got into what I'm doing and what I'm not doing, which is great because that's exactly what you need when somebody's coaching you. And he was doing that with the whole group there. And he was being very wonderful about it. He goes, I hope not offending you, so on and so forth. I go, no, hit me. That's we got to do. And he exposed all these things that I'm not doing. And then it was hilarious because at the end of it, he goes, so what do you think? And I'm like, so what I'm hearing from you is you can coach me and make me a much better salesman. So when are we having that coaching meeting? And he goes, oh, man. And I took it and closed it. My GSM, Paul, came up to me and gave me a bump and said, man, that was a good close. Because when you see what you're not doing, you need somebody with that outside eye going, look at that. And you're like, I didn't think about that, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that, it's really difficult to improve. You think like, oh, I got all my follow-ups done today. Well, did you really? And then it's that, did you really? And then it's your approach. It's how you said it. Did you, at the end of the day, go, hi, this is Chris Tara-Browne, man, oh, no, okay, bye, thank you, Or did you put it into there?
Right.
Just, what it's like just to do a podcast like this.
Yeah.
You got to be on your game. You got to, get in your head. You got to psych up, okay, I'm doing a podcast. I got to put everything that's going on in my life behind me or out of the way, and then I got to do this thing. Because you can't come with your low energy. It just doesn't work.
100% agree with that. So talk to us a little, because honestly, that is not a normal thought process. Like you said, you closing Sean Bradley. I mean, that's a big doggone deal. So tell us, there has to be some sort of, winning that you've done in your past. Tell us your personal story, kind of what got you into the automotive industry. Take it way back, because we know nobody ever wakes up and says, Mommy, Daddy, I want to be a car salesman, right? So how did this whole process start?
So I've always kind of been an entrepreneur all my life, whether it was managing bands in San Francisco for about 7 years. And then subsequently, when I got this travel bug and I went through China for about 5 weeks, and then into Russia, I just was traveling and meeting my people from my Baha'i community, enjoying that. And then I landed in Russia, and I was on a little youth project. This way back when I was 26 years old. And I was there for a month. I didn't think I was going to stay for long. And then 3 months, and then a year. And at that point in time, we were getting people who were interested in the Baha'i faith. And many of them became Baha'is. And it was just, that kind of entrepreneurial, I don't want to say, missionary, but that spirit of getting out the word to people, information to people. I've always done that. And then in Russia, I just happened to meet a great woman. We got married and we started a business, a coffee house business. And the first 3 years, we didn't have anything open. And then the next 15 years, we got 100 of them open.
Wow.
And so we opened 100 coffee houses through 6 countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, Azerbaijan. Of course, Russia was the bulk. And then we started getting involved in China. And then a perfect storm happened with the sanctions on Russia from the Ukrainian conflict that was going on. And then there was an oil price drop that the Russian economy was pegged on, and it all collapsed. And in the middle of that, my partner, 15 years, decided that he needed some assets more than I did. And it got really hairy, and he started bribing officials. And about 13 of these officials that are involved in economic crime, quote unquote, came to my office, and I happened to be out of the office, and my executive assistant, called me from the toilet and said, "Hey, these guys are here." And I'm like, "This is getting real." And so I left the country.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Better to be free and not have my $26 million business and instead of being, somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge. So, wow, man, a $26 million. So basically, my point is, what I'm hearing is that you come from success, right? So why does somebody like that want to basically be a car salesman? What about it, is exciting? What got you into doing it?
Well, once again, it's my wife. She's awesome. And she's very smart and practical and down to earth. So I have pie in the sky dreams of trying to build something over here. But unless you have some track record, reputation, it's really hard to get some funds to start doing a restaurant or anything else like that. And there's a lot of competition here in that area. So she just started practically doing sales, and she's great at it. She's like extremely high touch, very, 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 behind the person, she really wants to know who the person is, and she's extremely authentic in building relationships with clients. And I started seeing her paychecks, and I'm sitting there trying to get things together, and I'm going, I should just actually get realistic as well. And so I started doing it after she kind of showed me what's up.
She started showing you some of them checks. That's pretty cool stuff.
That's exactly it.
That's awesome. All right, so talk to us, because you did say, at the sales meeting, you were the number one salesperson. So how many cars do you sell per month? And then talk about what that does for you from a financial standpoint, because as the millionaire car salesman, that's what people want to know.
So last year I did 18.83 cars on the average per month. And this year, I'm already tracking 20 per month. So
how long have you been in business?
This is I've been in 2 years. 2 years and 3 months.
So basically,
going on my 4th month.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
got it. So 20 cars, and then from a financial standpoint, what does that mean for you?
Well, I'm very, very low 6 figures.
Okay,
but that's nice. That's hard to get. Without a college education.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have a college education, but I don't have a college education in car sales.
Got you. So, think about that, because, a lot of people, even when they're in the industry, if they're making that kind of money, they don't have any time for their family. You and your wife work together. Talk to me about what that means for y'all from a family's perspective.
Well, it's definitely a stability issue. So, like I said, an entrepreneur, it's all feast and famine. And when I was it all goes back to, whether you're watching Silicon Valley and seeing a bunch of guys, renting a house, and all living there, 10 guys living in the same house doing a computer company, or whether it's a regular classic business arrangement. We have, a one-room flat, and, people are, in the not so great part of town, and they're doing their business every day and trying to get that going. It's really difficult when you have a full, 2 kids, wife and kids, family, and to try and make that nut and do startup entrepreneurial. That's difficult. That's brutal. And you can do that here and get paid.
Yeah.
That's the difference. And it is a startup entrepreneurial business, but you just have somebody else covering the accounting. You have somebody else doing all the other stuff that you don't have to deal with.
Which is
When you have
nice.
your own business, and I've done my own business.
Right.
I've done taco stands and hot dog stands and coffee houses, and I've done classic retail business. And it took me in Russia, and Russia's not easy, right? It took me like literally 6 years before I could get anything up and running and pay myself a decent salary.
Wow. And that's powerful, man. That's what I'm talking about. So you've been successful in lots of industries, and now you're translating your success to the automotive industry. So tell us, what are the keys to success and making money in the automotive industry?
So I like to get really down to the nitty gritty, right? But I don't want to forget the big stuff. So let's talk about the big stuff, which is whether it's like Sean's videos, and he's also getting Ali Rizza and Frank Crichton. Is that his last name?
Trinity, yeah.
Trinity, sorry about that, Frank. Anyway, so Frank Trinity. So these people are doing these, 200 cars a month, 100 cars a month stably, and what they're in the overarching statements that you're going to hear from them and Sean is relationship, right? So it's all about getting and building relationships, because if you want to get people who are coming in the door or your leads on the internet, so whether it's fresh ups or leads on the internet, if you're trying to do that and get your 20, 30, or even more car deals per month, that's going to be a hard nut to crack, because it's just going to be brutal, because you can't get that many people every month, right? So you're going to go up and down, 10, 15, 20, 10, 15, 20, maybe 25 if you got a good dealership, right? So the overarching key is relationships. So it's return business. So if you're thinking about being in the business for a couple of months or a couple of years or whatever, that's fine. You'll make a decent salary. But if you want to do this professionally, you got to think about long term and making long term relationships so people come back to you. Like just literally last week, I'm selling my third car to this family. Wow. 3 cars, and I've only done this for 2.5 years, or less than 2.5 years, right? So 3 cars. And the lady saying, I want to turn in that first car you sold me and go for that 4th car in the next 2 months.
Wow.
So I'm like, wow, I didn't have to do anything. These people are already coming. They know exactly who they want to deal with. They're waiting for me, because I was dealing with another client for 15, 20 minutes. Not that I want to keep my customers waiting, but they just came, dropped by, right? And they're like, no, we're waiting for Chris. We're done. Right. And I'm like, wow. And so that's really it. It's that relationships and the referral business. So if you look at it as pipelines, and now we're going to get into the nitty gritty, you got pipelines. So whether it's internet leads or fresh ups, or whether it's referrals, or whether it's you're on Facebook talking to people, actually enjoying conversations with them as your friends, real friends, and then getting their referrals or friends or their family in. And that's the key. I think it was Frank was talking about it in his video on the Bradley training. He said that 25 to 30 of his 110 cars a month are from Facebook.
Wow.
So I mean, like, it's like, whoa. And that's because he's on Facebook, and on top of it, it's not just a regular Facebook page. It's like, open a Facebook page and 30 people come to you. Let's be serious. It's Facebook, and it's him talking to people and having that presence and being constantly there for people, for getting their service appointment done, or making sure that, that little scratch on their leather steering wheel gets solved, or whether it's a FaceTime training on an offsite delivery. It's those things that people remember and are going to go, oh, that person didn't just play around. They were actually there for me once, twice, 3 times. And it's that person then talks to or Facebooks, and that's where those Facebook clients come from. And it's definitely a long process. You got to be in the long haul.
Right.
It's a marathon.
Gotcha. So, and I hear you talking about the relationships, right? And let's say if we got some people that say, I've heard that before. I heard it's this. I heard it's that. I heard. What do you, Chris, say that is the number one thing that you absolutely must have if you're going to be successful? Because remember, you have a different perspective because you're coming from $26 million business. You know what I'm saying? So we want to hear that. What would you say it is?
So business, no matter where you go, is based on some major principles. And one of the foundational principles of business is when you want to scale it, when you want to make it bigger, So selling 10 cars a month is like, yeah, okay, you sold 10 cars a month, right?
Average, 9.6.
And that's average, right? And so if you want to actually make a business, yeah, you need investment, right?
Okay.
And there's a few types of investment, but the most important to be broken into two types. You have money investment, which here's some cash, give you a percentage of your company, and the other investment is sweat equity. And in general, sweat equity, which means you spend a huge amount of time and energy and massive effort, right? That means you're going to cash in later. You're not going to get much now. So you have to put sweat equity into your business and like a follow-up process. So the basis of all of this, I think the success really, the underpinning success is discipline. So if you have discipline and you do follow-up process, if you're calling the people, thank God we have Bradley online, on demand, the trainings, and we have the processes that he's come up with because they're brutal. It's like, no, you're not calling a person once, you're calling them twice, and you're calling them in different shifts. And there's a little thing saying, call them in different shifts. 2 little calls. So the first day, you got to call the person in the morning or afternoon and in the evening time. Because if you don't hit them twice, they're not going to look at you as serious. Yeah. They're actually going to look at you as a robot, right? Once you start really, really bugging them, they go, okay, you're a salesperson and you're really trying to make your amount. The robots, they call once every month or once every few months, and this is the normal kind of thing. Like, hey, you've engaged me. You've given me your time, whether you came into my shop or whether you gave me an online inquiry. So what are we doing? Right? And so that's the thing right there is where you're in that discipline and you're hitting them with 2 phone calls. You're hitting them with a text and you're hitting them with a couple of emails. And that's difficult. That's not easy.
Yeah, absolutely. And so the key word I hear you saying is discipline, right? Discipline to do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, no matter what the situation is, no matter what you got going on around you.
Absolutely. And for everybody who's in part of a dealership that may not have their processes set down, 3 months ago and where we are right now, these are 2 totally different processes, right? So we just started Bradley On Demand just not too long ago. So there's a totally different set of processes, right? So if you're looking there and it's like, email this person today, and you just emailed them once, right? Well, it's like 10% of those emails or whatever the number is, right, are being opened.
Yes,
are even being looked at.
2 to 4%,
right?
Yeah.
So it's 2 to 4. You're right. I remember that. Sorry about that. And then, so if you hit them with a text, you hit them with a call, you hit them with an email, and then you might even message them on Facebook. Now they're like, whoa, wait a minute. I better just at least talk to this person to tell them to stop. At least talk.
It's like, that's going to be the message. I definitely get it. But I think the majority of people, what happens is they don't even get it all at the same time. I was just coaching some people on this. They basically just know that you're serious because you're coming from all of these different angles. And so think about it. If I was going to have somebody come save my life, right? And okay, they're calling me. But now this other person is coming from Facebook, messaging, email, and they're doing everything in their power. Who am I going to put my trust in? It's just one of those things how it's just amazing how when you never call up a place, and you might need some customer service, but you press sales anyway because they're thinking, okay, if it's sales, they're going to pick up the phone faster. It's like that type of thing. I'm going to put my trust in the hands of a person that's going to go all out for me. So that's where I personally think it's coming from. What do you think?
I totally think that's true because if you see the person coming in on all these different fronts, right? They're trying to engage you, right? Then you're going to say, okay, let me try to talk to this person. You're just differentiating yourself.
Absolutely.
And things are about differentiating, right? You don't go to the boring movie.
Right.
It's like, I want to go to that movie, right? You go to the one that's engaging you. Whoa, that looks good, right? 100%. And if it doesn't engage you, you're not going to go.
Yeah.
And that's it. You got to be engaging. And I think that's a reality that everybody has to do. And you don't have to be like me engaging or like you, LA, or like Sean engaging. You just have to be engaging.
Yeah.
My wife is not like the, jump out in front, hey, how you doing sort of person. She's that like get under your skin like, whoa, you are really trying to serve me and do what I need.
Yeah.
Right? She's not pushing you, and she's like, and a woman in the industry, right, is very strong. By the way, that's an amazing thing because people don't like the old sleeked back, hey, how you doing? They want to get something a little better, right?
Wiggle.
And so, Exactly. So, no, but what happens is she just like starts talking to people, and they're like, and she's in such a humble, wonderful position with people that they like melt. And I watch them on the lot, just like looking at her, talking to her, and they're like, and she's okay, come on, let's go do this. And there's like, great, and it's sincere. That's the thing. If you can be sincere and you can be authentic and do that massive disciplined attack through all these different channels, then people are going to love you. They're going to love you. You know, it's like Alicia Keys. Wait till they see my smile. You know, it's like when you're sincere and you have that smile, you have that attitude. People go, oh, you're actually trying to help.
Right. Right.
It's very difficult. It's very difficult to find help in a very callous world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But when we see it, we're like, that's the thing. That's the genuine thing. That's human.
You're absolutely right. Sounds like I got another podcast guest in the future. You know what I'm saying? The people need. I think that'd be pretty cool, man. So, all right. So, talk to us about how do you make money as a salesperson? Because again, like I said, people think, you can't make money, especially you got the internet and stuff like that. So, how does that translate to making money in the automotive industry?
So there's two aspects of that. The first off is as a salesperson, you are engaging your dealership as a client. So buyer beware, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is you need to understand pay plans. I mean, a lot of people don't look at their pay plan, and that's really too sad because the dealership down the street might be offering a much better pay plan. Right, so pay plans that are, I think, very competitive. I got blessed by falling into the first ever Honda dealership in North America. I mean, let's just stop for a second. The first ever Honda dealership in North America.
Huge.
Okay, the first ever Honda car, little white. 1970, I forget, it's the N something, I forget the model number. It's right there in front, it's in our showroom, right? That's our street cred. And so, and this is a dealership that is so authentic. It's second generation, Manley, Brian Manley, son of Lori and Bill Manley. They have owned this place, and they're so Sonoma County, it's just amazing, right? And this is an authentic place. And so that dealership has created a pay plan that is covering you and touching you on all levels. We get money from trades. We get money from everything the dealership is making money that we're touching. They go, here's a little bit, right? Which is really cool. Back end.
That's nice.
We get money on the back end. And so that's like, wow, that's the dealership you want to work for.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. And they're looking at making everybody a little bit more enriched. Right, so that's the first thing: is find the dealership that's really looking at it has a good pay plan that really is understanding that you are part of the process in selling that thing. Therefore, you deserve part of that. The second part of it, I think, is now this is in your hands as a salesperson, right? The salesperson really, and I can't say really too much, really has to stop looking at the gross. Because that's going to stop you from service. So if you're looking at it and you go, and let's say some terminology, I got a 2-pounder here. Wow, I'm kapowie, right? And it's the front end, and I hope the back end F&I guy gets his other 2 pounds in there, and you're like, whoa. That attitude, that way of approaching it, really you can suffer from that. Because counter to that, if you have a person who's really smart, come to the internet and grinded out a deal before they even came into the dealership, and you're at a minus 500, right? That's still a car deal.
Yeah. And
that's still a human being. And that's where the industry is going. You know, $5,000 front ends, stop it. That's not there. You know, maybe a Raptor or whatever, that you're selling, that one item. But for the most part, you're going to be in $1,000, maybe even less dollars per in the front end. So so if you focus on that, you're not going to understand that it's the law of large numbers. If you get 20, 30 cars out, you're going to get great ones like, the $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 deals, and you're going to get, front and back, and then you're going to get the ones that are kind of grinders. And all of that will even out, and you'll get good money.
Got you. So basically, it's not like you're giving cars away. That's not what you're a proponent of. You just are basically like volume. You're a volume type of guy. Basically, hey, if the more people I help, the more money I make. Is that basically what I hear you saying?
Exactly. And if somebody's smart enough to get a great deal, throw yourself into their possession and go, dude, you got a great deal. Good job. Right? And that's hard to do because you're thinking about, oh, I got a Mini, right? Here's my Mini. That's all I got, right? And I'm going, my day was done. I got one car out. I was like, good job, man. You got a car out. It's like, no, I got a Mini. Or even a half deal Mini. Ooh. Yeah, ooh. And here in California, we're putting on the plates at the end of the deal, right? Because they did this whole new law where you have to have these temporary plates now. So you're screwing on those plates and you're going, I made $50 off this thing. And I've been with this person for 3.5 hours. So I know I'm doing this. I get it. I know what I'm saying. But when you treat that person in a way that they don't feel that they've, abused you or any way, and you do that, they will come back.
Wow. And so there's more money on the back end. So what are some of your best practices to make that happen? I mean, is there anything in particular you're doing? I heard you saying you're building a relationship. I know your wife was talking about the authenticity. What specifically are you doing? What are your best practices?
Well, so I have like a spiritual path. So every day I'm saying a prayer for selflessness.
Wow. Right?
And that's really difficult because when you're in the middle of selfishness, it's very difficult to serve people because we're serving people. As JD says, or Jim, he says, we're making magical moments in stressful situations, right? Because it's stressful. People are doing things that they, especially the people who are going for the, 12% or worse credit because, loan because their credit is so trashed, right? This is stressful. Right. And so if you got to kind of get to that level where you're serving people, and I can get ahead of myself. I can be kind of egotistical like anybody else I think can. And so you have to get to that selflessness. And that's really one of my best practices, to try and put myself aside and serve the client. That's really difficult. I was talking, to you about this idea of tips. So I come from the food industry, right? And your commission is essentially your tips, right? And in fact, tips translates to, it used to be an abbreviation.
To ensure profit service.
To ensure profit service. That's it. So you got to ensure that proper service, and you get the tip, right? And that's how you get you're paid on that, right? And so and the commissions will come from that. And so it's that if you can be like a waiter, right? If you can be a server, right? And also understand that if something's wrong, it's not your fault. Right. If there's something wrong with the battery and they start calling you and saying, what's something happened with the battery? Or like I recently had this, my leather part of my steering wheel has a little nick on it. It's like, okay, great. Right? Yeah. And if you were sitting there driving that car and you were turning your steering wheel, let's get into the be them, be the client. And you're turning your steering wheel and you feel that little nick on there. Your sexy leather steering wheel, and there's a little nick, and you feel it because you're turning that wheel. Wouldn't you want to make sure that's not there?
Absolutely.
When you spent $40,000 on your damn car, 100%. It's like, come on, bro. It's like, so think, so that selflessness puts you into their shoes, and that's hard to do. I'm not trying to say that I do it every time. Right. I go into the bathroom and I go, and I come back out, and you got to cool down. You got to keep it, but I mean, if you can't let people get under your skin and you can be a selfless servant, I think you'll go a long way.
So basically,
I'm not sure if I answered the question, but
yeah, no, absolutely. Because what I hear you saying is there's not anything in particular. It's just a mindset, right? And if you approach it with the proper mindset, then you can pretty much be successful. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
There was a great quote from the Shoghi Effendi, who's the guardian of the Baha'i faith, and he said this thing. He said, "If you want to be noble, act noble."
There you go.
So I mean, nobility is very difficult, but you got to start it. You got to act it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so once you start acting it, then you become it.
Absolutely. Huge. Good stuff. All right. So now let's talk about the other side of things. What do you feel are the most common mistakes that people make in the automotive industry? I don't know if you, because over here on the East Coast, folks are, making excuses. They're complaining. I don't know if you guys do that out in Cali. You know what I'm saying?
No, we don't do that out here. We're extremely beautiful, well polished. Come on, bro. I mean, Everything's all beautiful in
Yeah, right.
California.
The sunny state. It's always sunny.
It's so sunny right now. I can't. I'm not joking. This is a real thing. The weather is really great. And after being in Siberia for 21 years, it's so nice to be here.
Right,
I can tell you that right now. So,
Yeah, when you think about mistakes, what are people doing?
I can tell you the mistakes I make,
Okay.
and I say make as in present tense, and have made. Right.
Okay.
So the mistakes I make is either rushing the client, right? Because I assume that because they're, an internet lead, they're like wanting to do this quick, right? The mistakes I make are, trying to push a person into a color because it's in stock when they're not going to buy that color, right? They're just not going to do it, right? And you lose, and I forget who was saying this. I think it was JD who was talking about this, or Paul. This is my GSM and my GM. You have a certain amount of, what is that, like goodwill, good faith, right? And it can be a small, depending on the person's patience and depending on the person's character, it can be a little small amount or it can be a big amount. But once you get to the end of that, you're done. So if you keep pushing them and saying, but gray is really great, it's like, I told you 3 times I don't like gray. But look at how gray is great for dirt and blah, blah. It's like, no, I don't want gray, right? You're gonna diminish that. And they may be polite, but you've already spent it. So I think one of the things the first mistake is pushing people in a direction as opposed to like letting them come and do things, and letting them have their opinions. And then, of course, there's things that can bend and things that will break.
Yeah.
So don't break the things. If you can bend them into getting that gray car because they were saying silver, right? That's fine. And it's a 1 suggestion, 2 suggestion. If you're smart enough to say, what are your top 3 colors at the beginning and not just ask what's your favorite color, right?
Right.
And then you can then go, okay, I got this one. It's their 3rd, and that's all you got, right? So you already set it up and you got your thing. Right, so your objection is already been overcome. But at the same time, it's when people want to do something, and then you push it.
Yeah.
People want this amount for their trade. Great. There's Craigslist and there's Facebook. Go for it. Yeah. And then they're like, well, no, I wanted to get this done now. And I go, well, but yeah, we've been to 3 dealerships, and
Right.
that's what it's at. And so but don't resist them. You just don't get the trade.
That's one of the things I definitely get every time I talk to a top, salesperson. It's like, there's no point in resisting. There's no value there. So 100%. And even I teach it when I'm talking about, overcoming objections. It's not always about creating the resistance. It's like accepting kind of the whole, kung fu thought process of doing stuff versus, pushing back all the time. Just, breathe the energy in, and then you can take it to where you need to take it to. Was that Taekwondo? What is that?
That's Aikido.
Aikido, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Good stuff.
You use the force against itself, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, man, wow, you really do sound like a scholar. You made this movie.
No, come on.
No, seriously. There's got to be some books. Talk to me about some books that you might recommend for people.
So if you haven't read Ali Riz's, 100 How to Sell 100 Cars, then you're really missing it, because he breaks it down into, up to 20 cars, what's going on, 20 to 40 cars, what's going on. If I remember the numbers, they might be different than this. I'm just remembering this. And like 40, 50 and plus cars, right? He breaks it down into what you need and what you need from your GM for that support, what you need from yourself to do these things. So it actually breaks it down. Okay. And for us, kind of ADHD, OCD, whatever we are, salespeople, because we all out there, squirrel, right? We're all running around there. It's a book that's literally a half size of a book. It's like a booklet, and it's only like 40 pages of these small half pages, right? It's like a coffee table book, and that's brilliant. And you just can get through that really easy. The other book that I've read, it's by a guy named Pasht, Pacht. I forget his first name. It's called Just Faster. Right? And Just Faster is about the digital kind of way in which your dealership's dealing with generating digital information and then moving it through. So whether it's your CRM or your true car leads or your organically created leads. And some salesmen, if salespeople are listening to this and they're going, "What the hell is he talking about?" Well, then you gotta learn, because this is where it's all at. It's the digital end of things that are moving people towards your dealership.
Yeah.
And with those with this book, he actually drops in the middle of all of this. What's the difference between a car customer and a finance customer, right? Because those are two totally different customers, right? And if you can, at the beginning, understand where they're coming from, you can get them to that. Now, regrettably, there are some old school people that are saying you have to do the entire selection process from beginning to end, right? And we learn that selection process. I'm sorry, not the selection process. The stages to the deal, right? Selection being only one of the beginning ones. We learn that stages to the deal, right? So that then you can change where you need to change, right? So yes, learn that from backwards and forwards. But then when you get a person that comes in and says, "I want to know price," don't stop them and take them on a test drive and force them to do a test drive. Because by the end of that test drive, you may already be toast. You lost all of your goodwill, right? That they advanced you at the beginning, right? So it's you got to look at that. So yes, I understand that for green peas that are out there, that are in just getting involved, that's fine. I understand your manager's telling you to do stuff, and don't break that. But at the same time, once you've learned that, also learn where the change is. Go to the desk and say, "This person only wants financing. I can't push them." Right?
So talk about, because basically what I hear sounds like to me, and I love the books that you recommended, but it sounds like it's about training. So what do you recommend? First of all, how important would you say training is, and then what do you recommend people train on?
So I'm pausing because there's just so much training that I do. I read a lot of audiobooks.
Okay.
I'm reading a book about branding called Getting to Aha, which talks about positioning and branding.
Yep.
I just got done with Joy Incorporated, which talks about the digital, how to create digital businesses. I've just had a coaching session with, bountifully, generously given coaching session by Sean about, how to create my own brand on Facebook and websites.
Right.
So those are the kind of trainings. So the Bradley On Demand trainings that I'm doing right now, those are huge. I do those and I do those in really intense blocks. I start on one line, I finish all of it, then I just do that. Like right now, I finished the entire CRM section, except for the ones that haven't been produced yet. I finished all of that, and that's all I'm doing is the CRM right now. And then I'm going to go into social media, that section, and then I'm going to do that, right? And that's the kind of thing. So Bradley On Demand training is amazing, just amazing. And if you can go to, it's true. And then there's also if you can go to any of the major conferences, whether it's the NADA, and then there's one that I think you guys have every year.
Group. It's going to be in Vegas this year.
Yeah, and I'd love to go to that.
Yeah, awesome. Close to you.
And that's just those. If you take those days off and you go to these places where people are talking about the real cutting edge, the vanguard of the industry, then you get to see yourself how you're going to survive in the industry, because the industry is changing massively.
Yeah, absolutely.
We all are pretending like, oh yeah, I'm in this little, small town and it's not going to come to me. It's coming to you.
Absolutely. So what is it that you love most about the automotive industry?
That I'm working with people.
Wow.
I like people. If you don't like people and you're trying to sell cars, that's you really should go into the office and work in the administrative part as the service guys. That's fine. But I like people, and generally like talking to people, solving their problems. I like telling people go down to Toyota if that's what you're doing. I sell Hondas, right? And what am I going to say? Toyotas are awful. Toyota's a good car.
Right.
I can't start bashing on Toyotas. I look like an idiot. There's no expertise if I start saying, oh, Siennas are bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, stop it.
Right.
You know? And so at first, like, I really want the Sienna. It's like, well, then you go get a Sienna.
Right. Got you.
And I remember, what was that? This old Christmas one. It's black and white film. I think it's a Miracle on 42nd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the Santa guy is sitting there. He has a kid on his lap, and the kid's talking about a toy that's over at like Bloomingdale's, and they're in Macy's, or vice versa. I forget what it was. And then he goes, "Okay, you should get that. It's over at Macy's."
Right.
And the store director comes up and goes, "What the hell are you doing?" He goes, "Well, it's Christmas. He wants that. You don't have it. You should get it in your store. It's your problem, right?"
Exactly.
and it's it's that kind of. Putting the client first and saying, "Hey, this is what you want. This is what you get." If they don't know if they want an Odyssey or a Sienna, I'm going to make sure they get into an Odyssey.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to like not sell it, but if they know what they want and they're moving what they want. I had a lady recently that was like, she just bought like $1.5 million place up in Cloverdale, which is right there in the wine country area of Sonoma County, and they had just sold their 2 businesses in I think like San Jose and San Francisco, and they sold the San Francisco house. So they're like, and she's like coming at me, and I know I'm hearing from her. She essentially wants a Lexus, right? And I try to get her a CRV, and she only wants this one killer of the Tops touring CRV all-wheel drive. And we are trying to. There's like 4 of them in the area, and it's just one of those things. We're trying to deal or trade for it, and she's like, she goes to Lexus once, twice, 3 times. She's going to us just kind of as an afterthought. And of course, she buys the new hybrid, smaller, whatever the Lexus is. I don't know the Lexus line very well, right? So she does that. And it's like, what can I do? I'm selling Toyotas. No, I'm not. Am I selling some Lexus? No, I'm not. Am I selling BMWs? No, I'm selling Hondas, right? And so, and that's really important that if you can't overcome the obstacle of what they want, then you let them go.
Gotcha.
Right? But if you can, then you do it.
Right. There's nobody saying give up. It's just, hey, you got to basically know when to hold them, know when to fold them.
Yeah.
Totally understand. Good, man. So share with us, I'm going to kind of close this thing out. Talk to me about what you're most excited about right now. I know you had the training session, the coaching with Sean, but what are you most excited? Where's your career headed?
So, yeah, I came home last night, and my wife had listened to the coaching with Sean. We videoed it, and she checked it out, got all that done. I had my notes, and we're now building our brand. And we're talking about what our brand's going to be like, right? Is it the people first brand? Is it the this brand? Is it that brand? What's the brand going to be like, right? And so we're going over our branding, and then subsequently there's a whole bunch of questions that Sean asked us, like why would women work with you? Why would this minority group that's in your area work with you? Why would first responders or military work with you? So there's these segments, right?
Right.
And you ask yourself, why would that person buy a car from you, right? And so we're going through that, and that's really exciting to me because then that's our brand, subsequently our website domain, and subsequently our website, as well as what we put on our Facebook. So we're going to have that interchangeable, right? That's really exciting to me because then, because that's the thing I love, and I love marketing and promotions. So that's the kind of thing that when people, you're committed, right? Yeah. You're now actually there. It used to be a long time ago that a business card was more than enough to exchange information and say, I'm a professional this. That's no longer it. If you don't have a Facebook presence or a website and or both, then people are going to go, well, you're not in the game.
Yeah.
That's just the name of the game right now. People are like, oh. So you open up a website and you go, oh, this person's in. And that's what they sell. And that's the happy people that are working with them. Oh, and there's a little post or two about something that's valuable to me, like how to overcome, dealership anxiety, and do a video on that. And the person clicks on that, and there's one of the biggest anxious problems about dealerships are blah 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 blah. Selecting the car, and here's what you can do to select the car before you get in. Or it's the fact that people hate paperwork. Well, here's a whole bunch of stuff you can do for paperwork that you don't have to do when you get here. I'll have it all done for you, right? And you're like, wow, and I can make this deal for you 90 minutes to 60 minutes. And they're like, huh. And you get over dealer anxiety. So now they're sitting there thinking, huh, am I going to go to this, Sven Jorgensen, who sent me an email, and that's all he's done? Yeah. Or am I going to go to, Chris Tara-Browne, the guy who's trying to who knows that I'm in anxiety and wants to get rid of my anxiety?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, wow.
He's a difference maker. That's basically what I hear you saying.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited about right now is getting my CRM practice down. I got to go. There's a whole bunch in the Sean Bradley sold category. So when you sold the vehicle, there's still a whole bunch of stuff to do after you sold the vehicle to someone. Mm-hmm. Staying in contact, making sure that they're taken care of. And a lot of car salesmen, let's be totally honest here. A lot of car salesmen go, I've sold it, I want to go on to the next one, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that means you're not going to get the referrals.
Right. If you don't have their number in your phone, if you don't have, all that type of stuff. I mean, you need to have seriously one-touch connection with people. So I totally get that. And I'm not.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be that guy who keeps saying this. I'm not a Superman. I'm just a guy, right? I also have that. Oh no, it's Mrs. Schmubber Schmub. I'm saying that because I don't want to say it's Mrs. Schmubber Schmub, and I got her on my. I actually put her contact in there because I sold her a car. You should put everyone you sold a car contact in your phone number. So Mrs. Schmubber Schmub is called for the 5th time.
Right.
And you're like, dude, this is bad, And now you're dealing with it, right? And I get that. You didn't have a real, fun moment with Miss Schmubber Schmub, right? But if you can actually serve Miss Schmubber Schmub, you can serve anyone.
Buddy day.
You can serve anyone.
Right. You're absolutely right, though. You're absolutely
and just take it, and the mindset for Miss Schmubber Schmub would be like, I'm going to do this. This is my training. She is my training.
Right. See,
she's my Yoda,
Those problems don't last. You see what I'm saying? Whenever you're in those situations, they're all trainings. They're all, just forcing you to get better. God will keep giving you the same test until you learn how to pass it. And then once you pass it, it doesn't exist anymore. So I've dealt with that. I'm sure you've dealt with it. That's why you're telling us a story. But man, you're 100% on it. So I get it. So real quick, what's a parting piece of guidance, and let people know how they can connect with you if they want to hear more of this?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and my phone number is 650-892-4727. I'm there. I'm not I'm on LinkedIn. I got a cool little LinkedIn thing that shows all my previous businesses and stuff that I've had. Cool. So yeah, just hook up with me if there's something important you need. I might be in the middle of a car deal, so it might be a while. But in general, it's I'd love for people to hook up. And I actually love to hear from other people. Right now, what I'm trying to do is kind of like a breakfast clutch, trying to get some of my salespeople who want to, share and exchange, because I learn from other people as well, right? It's always learning. I want to do a little breakfast group where we sit down with our iPad or our iPhone or computer, whatever we bring, and we just talk about the process we're going through. That's really the way to do it right now, is that I can go into the process. Are you doing your solds? No, I'm not doing my solds. Okay, so what's going on? Has anybody done their solds? Great, I'm trying to do my solds. I did 10 yesterday. This is what I learned, right? Are you doing your what is it? The the leads that you haven't followed up on, or you don't have that have no more follow up. Oh, I didn't even know that thing existed. I got to click on that, right?
Yeah, unsold showroom traffic is even more powerful. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
100%. I get it. So that's beautiful. So, and what I heard you saying in that last little piece is networking, how important that is when it comes to, and that's really Ali Reda talks about that. He's like, you got to spend time outside your dealership. You got to spend time in your community working with people. And, we actually got another dealer. His name's Chris himself. And he, basically created a whole connection. There was some sort of Facebook group that he found, and he, inserted himself and basically made himself extremely valuable to that group. So I hear you saying that, man. That's
and most dealerships are so, and this is no trashing on dealerships. They have so many different compliance issues and so on and so forth. But most dealerships are behind in 1, 2, 3, or 4 more spaces. That's why I'm saying read just faster. To read, the Ali's book, to read, to get on this podcast and other podcasts and learn about digital marketing and so on and so forth. Because what happens is you'll go, hey, wait a minute. You walk into your BDC director, or your internet director, or your GM or your GSM, depending on how small or large your dealership is and the access you have to these people. And once you've gotten your basics, once you're in a year or whatever, right? And maybe even before that too, you go in and go, hey, I've noticed we're not doing Facebook very well. And the GM will look at you with tears and go, can you take it, please? Because the principal or the owner has given me a budget. That's my budget. That's it. And I'm maxed out, baby. Right? Yeah. And if you want to do Facebook and get 1 or 2 deals per month off of that, and maybe more as time goes on and as you really master it, right? Then do it. Right? And so there's a lot of dealerships out there dying for somebody to just do something. And the reason they're not doing it is they just don't have, it's new to them and they're older. That's just reality. Or it's just the fact that they just don't have enough hands to get to that.
Absolutely.
Man. And that's great.
Yeah, man. And this whole podcast, man, you've been really sharing a lot of knowledge. We so appreciate it. And I always tell my listeners this, man. Listener, millionaire car salesman, you are the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with. And you've just been spending time with Mr. Chris Tara-Browne and L.A. Williams. So it's time for you to go out there and be a millionaire car salesman. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Thank you, L.A. And thank you, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to bradleyondemand.com and take your career to the next level.
Cool.
So LA, anytime you need anything from me, give me a call.
Absolutely, man.
Right. I guess, when is the thing coming up in Las Vegas?
That's going to be November 11th through the 13th. So as details develop, I'll get them to you.